Today is finally the day. This is my 40 breeder that I set up in the living room that I told you about. It is right across from my 210 Frontosa tank. So this is going to be a sweet planted setup, hopefully. You'll see we've got some nice hardscape on each side, some room back behind here to plant, as well as kind of around where the intake is. I think I'm going to paint this intake, but we'll see. And then some nice open area here, which will give a nice kind of leading line basically to the background. I almost wish I would have frosted the back instead of painted it black, but I think the black will really make the plants stand out. So let me go ahead and show you what we're going to use for substrate. So here you can see we've got some UN Systems, I think it's UN, at least that's what it shows there. UN Systems control soil. So this is their extra fine, you can see there. And if you look closely, so it's like little pebbles, but it's all actually like baked compressed soil. So I've heard some really good stuff about this substrate. Apparently it works really well. Let me flip the bag over. So you can see this is our extra fine. It says good for nano tanks. I don't know, it should be fine. It does buffer pH. We actually have pretty high pH water here in Colorado, so this should work out well. But hopefully, you see, without the soil, with the soil. I don't know, we'll see. So underneath of this is just some multi-purpose sand from Lowe's. So this is a half cubic foot, not a lot. So this is going to go in the foreground. The control soil is going to go in the corners. So this is going to be supplemented by root tabs, just kind of in the front of the tank, and I'll show you that here in a second. So in here I've got some pea pebbles, and it said pea pebbles at the store, but it's more like I mean, I guess it is pea pebbles, but it's like granite. I don't really like the color with the rocks, so this is just going to be a filler in the corners, so I don't have to use so much of that soil. So yeah, that'll be a good filler. So this was actually in a bag from Home Depot, like $3 or $4 or something, in a big old bag. We used some in our backyard for some filler out there too. This I actually got for free. So this is some actual pea pebble that I got at the local garden center. They sell this stuff by the ton, and I was like, I just need like a grocery bag full, and they just let me have it. So I think this is going to be a lot better looking with that rock we have in here in the tank. So let me give you a look. All right, so you can see the color of the slate, and I think, I mean, this still needs to be washed off, but a lot better color than that granite stuff. So here in the tank, right in this foreground area, this is where all the sand is going to go, and then I'll use that pea pebble to kind of spread around the rocks there so it makes it look a little more natural, so kind of around the edges. And then in the corners, so here and back here, I'll use some filler, that pea pebble, and then do like 3 inches of that soil right behind there and right behind there. I think this is all, I'll still put some filler in there because that's kind of deep. But you can see it kind of taking shape. Let me go ahead and show you the plants that we're going to be putting in here. Down below the planted 40 breeder that we're doing is the quarantine / grow out tank that I've shown you in the last video. So you can see I just have some sponge filters in the corners, and I threw some filter media there from my other fish tanks to hopefully maybe move along the cycle. But anyway, so you can see these are all the plants that I have purchased for the 40 breeder. So I'll go through these with you. Please forgive me about pronunciations and things. I have no idea how to pronounce most of these things, and I had to write down a list because I have no idea what some of these plants are actually called. I'll start here at the top. I just have a floating little guy of spiky moss, just in a little cup. All this stuff came from local fish stores, by the way. So I'll just start over here on the left. So over here, this guy, that is a super red mini Ludwigia. The next one over, Ludwigia pruensis. I think there's another plant in there. I'm gonna have to look at that in a second. So this tall green one back here, this guy is a Mint Charlie. Back in the back, maybe if you can see that guy sticking out of the pot, Sargent repens. Here in the front, I have a cardinal plant. I thought that was really cool, so I picked that guy up. Back here in this pot, right there is a Cryptolutions. Back here, if you can see, right in that pot, in the sticking out the side, Anubias minima. I already showed you the spiky moss. So down here in the front, we have some mini Bulbitis. So those will be attached to the rocks. Gonna be super cool, I think. Crypt Parva are the ones behind it. Those are really slow growers. Hopefully the root tabs will help out. And I'm going to be doing some CO2, which should be here tomorrow or Tuesday. But I'll show you what we're going to do with that. I still have to do a review of the CO2 system I'm using, and I'll get that video out to you soon. This guy right here is a red Reuben sword. Hopefully we get some nice red out of that. Over here, some dwarf hairgrass. I don't know if it's really dwarf. There's actually 3 like bunches that I just stuck in this little pot. Most of these, so all these came in the pots, and then these ones I just used pots that I got from Aquarium Co-op. And then Ludwigia repens, I think, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't think that they had a separate tank with Ludwigia repens in it, and I'm not sure what this one is. Let me zoom in on it. Maybe you guys can tell me which one that is. There you go. So I think that's Ludwigia repens. So let me go through the tank here. I'll slide you around so you can take a look at everything. So there's that dwarf hairgrass. It's not really dwarf, is it? It's kind of large. I think this, we're going to end up keeping it a little long. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put that. Back there is that Anubias minima. I kind of liked that one. There we go. I liked the leaves on it, but I think that actually means I had some kind of deficiency. Stargent repens over here. Actually, I could probably show you a better one. Right there. So yeah, these guys down here in the front. So this is that Crypt Parva that I focused on. So let me see if I can point that out. That one right there. So Crypt Parva there, that grows really slow. So hopefully some CO2 will help. And then if I focus here on the front, that one would be mini Bulbitis. So mini Bulbitis is interesting because it's really similar to like a Anubias plant where you attach it to like wood or rock, and you do not plant the rhizome. But it looks a lot different than like an Anubias type of plant. So yeah, that one's super cool. There's that cardinal plant. Cardinal plant? Yes, cardinal plant. I think we have it in focus there. I really thought so if you look underneath, let me see if I can show you. Oh, shoot. Okay, there we go. Let me see if I can show you the underside of the leaves. They're absolutely gorgeous. So they're really like a deep purple. Get under there. There you go. Really loved this plant. I really hope I can do well with it. So that'll be in the control soil, absolutely. And CO2 supplementation, probably, so I'll go over the fertilizer here soon. All right, so next over, this guy is that red Reuben, a little closer look. So it can grow some nice, if you look under here, it can grow some nice deep dark leaves. And then let's just scooch over, and there we go. So over here, that guy, that's that Ludwigia peruensis. And then, oh, need to go back to that Mint Charlie. I thought the Mint Charlie would add some cool texture. So you can see it there. It's actually a really nice looking plant. And then, ooh, there's that super red mini Ludwigia. So a really nice looking plant. And you can see the little roots coming off of there. But I do like the density of the plant, so I think that'll look pretty nice in there to add some visual interest. So in the foreground of the tank, I'm going to be using this super glue gel. So I'll use this to attach the Anubias as well as the mini Bulbitis there, and then the spiky moss. Actually, I didn't even show you the spiky moss, so if you haven't seen it before. So spiky moss, there you go. So this stuff is pretty neat. It gets kind of, well, like its name, spiky. So we'll glue that to some of the driftwood, and I think it'll add a cool little effect. It does get really kind of bushy looking, so hopefully attached to the wood it'll look really nice. So there were some hitchhikers included in some of these plants from the local fish store. I did see some like little pond snails or bladder snails, whatever you want to call them. We picked out the ones that we did find. These plants have been in here for a couple days now, and I haven't found any since, but I know once we get the plants in their permanent home, I'm sure we'll find some more. And I can treat the tank. I've used no planaria, and you can check out my video for that. I'll put that in a little card or whatever in the corner, maybe here or over here. So check out the no planaria video. And that really takes care of those little snails pretty well. And since I don't have anything else in this tank yet, it's going to be cycling. It won't harm any other like shrimp or anything else. So, all right, so I am going to start putting some substrate in the 40 breeder, and we can go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting the granite pea pebble in the corners, so back in here and back in here. I'm just going to use this cup. Make sure you always label your cups. You probably can't see it, but it says fish. All right. I'm just going to stick that back in the corner. Kind of want to adjust the rocks as I go too, so that nothing like spills out the front. I want to fill in some of these gaps here because I do not want the soil making its way out. So I'm going to backfill some of these spots so that we don't get any of that soil spilling out the front. And make like a little dam right there. A little bit more. Let me give you a peek at that. I just want to give you an idea of what that looks like. So back here, I know it's a little dark, but so there's that pea pebble, and then over here in this corner I built like a little dam because I do have a little bit of a gap here, so I don't want that control soil coming out of here, so I just made sure that this pea pebble fills kind of the crevices so none of that comes out. We're going to do the same thing over in this side. This one has a few more gaps, so hopefully that pea pebble will help. So one advice I just have on this pea pebble is that make sure you rinse it really well. Rinse it really well, otherwise it'll make a huge mess when you're filling with water. So now that we've got the corners filled up, I think I'm going to go ahead and start putting our sand in here and see how that looks. I haven't actually seen this sand in person yet. So this sand says it's pre-washed. Ooh yeah, that's gonna look nice. So we're gonna need a nice layer in there for our plants that are going in the foreground. Apparently I'm getting messages. Sorry about that. It is a bit dusty. I've read about people using this and not needing to wash it, so might have to do a few water changes. We need a good thick layer for the roots to grow and enough to put in some root tabs. Starting to take shape, huh? So we've got our driftwood. This is really going to change color once it gets wet too. These rocks look amazing when they're wet. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean. I do not have a flat sculpting tool. It would look a little bit nicer if I did. I like using this kind of all-purpose sand. Some people like using the play sand, but the play sand has such a fine grain to it that it kind of strangleholds your plants. And this stuff has a little bit thicker grain, so the roots have a chance to take hold and spread. So my lovely wife came in and told me that I need to put sand underneath the rocks because I was basically burying a layer underneath and losing a lot of height. So we've kind of redid this a little bit. So this has changed a little, and I actually like this a lot better. So I have a lot more space actually over here now. And yeah, the layout of the rocks are a lot nicer, I think. So you can see the sand out here in front, and again I still have the granite pebbles in the corner. Now we are moving on to the control soil. I also wanted to point out that this just came. You can't see it, it's too dark. I need a light. So these just came. These are going to be used, so these are flourish tabs by Seachem, and they're going to be used in the sand in the foreground for the plants that are going to go along the rocks and the wood. All right, so we're just going to stick the control soil, I don't know how to pronounce it, in the back. All right, so we got enough in this corner, and move on to this corner. So you can see back in the corners is our soil. Then we just have our sand out here in the middle, and then again soil back in this corner here. So we'll go ahead and start with the taller plants, so the stems and the sword plants and things like that, and then move forward. So I have taken the little pea pebbles and washed them out And I kept washing and washing and washing, and they were still dirty. So it is what it is, I guess. But it's a little bit different color after you wash it, and I think it's a little better. You're probably not going to see that, but so what I'm going to do with the pea pebbles is just create kind of a more natural look around in the sand. So we'll just kind of go like this. Not going to be using a whole lot. This one's something looks a little bit more natural than just the sand against the rock. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. I think maybe we need a little more out this way. I think that's looking pretty good. So in these, well, you can see over here, I kind of shortened the aqua clear intake because it was going down into that dirt, so I had to shorten that a little bit. We have dry set kind of the plants. I've got some, the pots are just kind of sitting around in there, but kind of dry set everything in here just to kind of see what it's going to look like. When you're doing this, make sure that you kind of keep a squirt bottle around just to keep the plants wet while you're trying to figure out where you're going to put everything. But I think we've got a good layout here. So these I'll be able to break apart and go along the rocks, and then the mini bulbitis will go kind of in the cracks and things like that. I still have the moss down floating in the other, nope, it's sitting right there. Anyway, down in the other tank, so we can attach that to the wood. And we've got our nice sword plant, some stem plants back behind there, nice stem there, and then kind of some more oddball plants over here, but this is kind of focal point over here. So anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and start planting. I guess this corner. Oh, I was totally wrong. This is not Sterigent. That's the Repens. That is Crypt Parva. That's my bad. Cryptocorin parva. Stem plants would probably be easier if there's water in here, honestly. So this is our super red mini Ludwigia going kind of back in this corner. This stuff actually is kind of nice. Seems like it'll hold the plants pretty well. As you can see, I've got the corners planted here, and I'm just working on the foreground. So I'm getting that Crypt Parva all planted along the edges here. I've got the mini bulbitis glued in, looking pretty good in kind of some of these little crevices here. So this Crypt Parva, it's actually kind of difficult because the plants are so teeny. But I'm going to go ahead and get those done. They come in this rock wool. So this plant is itty bitty, and it can be broken up into itty bitty plants because it's got a ton of roots just right bunched together. Sorry about standing right in the middle of the frame. But they can break off any of these. I don't know if you can see that, but they're so small. So I can plant them all over the place. So I'm just kind of sticking these into kind of crevices and corners. And then I will stick some root tabs around these. So hopefully they'll fill in eventually. I know it's pretty slow growing, but Hopefully with these root tabs and whatnot, they'll take off. All right, so I need to wet some of these down again. Need to get some root tabs. Stick those in here. Sea Flourish, and they're, well, you're not going to see that, but they're like these little kind of black looking chunks. I'm just gonna stick them around here. So I'm sticking these tabs basically right around the roots of where all these plants have gone. That'll supply the nutrition that they need. So I put all this Sea Flourish tabs kind of along the base of where all these plants are, down in the sand, because the sand does not have any nutrients. So the last thing I need to do is do the spiky moss. So that moss is going to end up being on this wood. I'm not sure if I want to put it, I think I'm going to put it up here. Maybe along here. I'm not really sure where I want to put it. Maybe along this area would be a good spot. So I'm just going to be using super glue like I used on this Anubias that's right here, as well as the Bulbitis, mini Bulbitis. And I keep spraying these plants down to make sure that they keep moisturized. So I'm just using Gorilla super glue gel. All right, so I've got a nice little portion of spiky moss. So the spiky moss is a little hard to work with because it all kind of falls apart a little bit. So you got to make sure you glue it down pretty good. All right, I think I got everything taken care of here. I know this doesn't look super planted, but it does have that crypt in there, and I didn't want to overpower this area because the focal points obviously are in the corners here. So I think we're about ready to flood this and see how much floating I have going on here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that and go from there. So we got the tank filled and I think it's looking pretty awesome. I'm going to skim the surface with a net to get all this extra, the leaves and things like that off the top. And then I have an Aqua Clear 70 filter on the top, or on the back I guess, since it's a hang-on back. And I'll get that up and going and it should clear up in the next couple hours. It does look pretty clear now, honestly, with that. I'm pretty impressed with that multi-purpose sand. I didn't even rinse it and it's not really cloudy, so and I'll kind of perk up some of these plants and yeah, see how it turns out. Well, I've got the Aqua Clear 70 running and I got the surface kind of skimmed off. I could add just a little bit more water, but I think it's okay for now. But I did go through and fixed some of these plants over here just so they stand up a little bit better. It's going to take some time for everything to fill in, but yeah, I think everything looks pretty good. I really like the little plants up in the foreground up here. That are around the wood and things like that. I think they look fairly natural, but once this clears up I think it'll look super awesome. It looks a little bit cloudy since I just started it up, but once everything's up and running I think it'll look great, especially once this kind of fills in and everything kind of grows up there. So kind of give you a closer shot in the corner there. So I just have the spiky moss attached to the wood. It's a little white because the super glue turns a little white, but once the spiky moss kind of grows, you won't see that anymore. But yeah, all this really needs to grow in a bunch. And then we look over here on the other side. All that over here, that's just bubbles. Zoom in a little bit. You can see the plants there. You can see everything's kind of cloudy still since we just started it up. Let me know what you guys think of this scape. I think, again, once all these plants kind of start filling in, this will turn out really great. I will have a video here later this week. I am putting CO2 in this tank. Once I get that set up, I have the same setup on my 5.5 gallon planted. So I want to do a little review on that. So keep a lookout for that video. Otherwise, if you like my videos, please hit that like, hit subscribe, notification bell so you know when I come out with new videos. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this tank, and maybe what you think, what fish we should put in here eventually, after it cycles, of course. So anyway, see you guys on the next one.